Thanks, Dave. Now, we've seen some big changes in the weather world recently, and it turns out these seasonal shifts change how California regulates their power.
So how exactly does the weather affect the state's power supply? Meteorologist Lisa Meadows is live now at the state capitol getting answers. Lisa?
The state of California has set big goals when it comes to switching over to green energy within the next decade. The big difference with these energy sources, they depend on the weather.
Water, wind, and solar energy. 3 key ways to generate renewable energy. Here in California, lawmakers have set high standards for how green we want to be in the next 10 to 20 years. The goal is to have switched 33% of the state over to renewable energy sources by 2020 and half of the state by 2030. Since all 3 are affected by the weather, that means high-stakes weather forecasting for the California Independent System Operator, where they manage the state's power grid.
We have to make sure that the grid is ready to deliver all of those megawatts that the utilities need in order to meet these goals.
Figuring out the forecast for these energy sources falls on the shoulders of meteorologist Amber Motley. She's in charge of short-term forecasting at Cal ISO.
We forecast temperature and then turn that into an energy use forecast and then determine the generation that needs to be online for it.
If I'm off by 2 degrees in the forecast, you're probably not even going to notice. If Amber's off by 2 degrees, that could impact the power grid's reliability and cost.
A 1 degree error when we're in the 90s can be up to 500 megawatts of generation.
But as the engineering behind green energy expands, so will the science behind weather forecasting.
As we head towards more renewable resources, it's going to become more important that we have better forecasting tools for cloud cover, wind speed, wind direction, temperature.
And California is well on its way.
Cal ISO tells me that right now they're seeing about 28% of the energy on the grid on average coming from renewable resources, sometimes even more.
Very interesting, to say the least, and no pressure on her, that's for sure. All right, Lisa, thank you. Live at the state capitol tonight.